Imagine two employees working side by side. They both put in long hours, meet their targets, and go the extra mile. But while one gets recognition and bonuses, the other's efforts seem to go unnoticed. What happens next? The answer might lie in Adam's equity theory of motivation, a framework that shows how perceptions of fairness impact how motivated people feel at work. Developed by psychologist J. Stacey Adams in the 1960s, equity theory focuses on a fundamental human need, the desire for fairness in social exchanges. When people perceive imbalance, when they feel they're putting in more than they're getting out, or getting more than they've earned, motivation suffers. This isn't just about money. It's about how effort and reward align, especially in relation to others. How it works, the basics of equity theory. Equity theory is built on a simple equation. Your input/outcome ratio versus others' input/outcome ratio. Inputs are what a person brings to the job: time, effort, skills, experience, loyalty, creativity, etc. Outcomes are what they get in return: salary, benefits, recognition, promotions, flexibility, and more. People don't evaluate these in isolation, they compare themselves to others. This could be a colleague in the same department, someone in a similar role at a different company, or even their past selves in a different job. When the ratios feel balanced, motivation is stable. When there's a perceived imbalance, people feel under-rewarded or over-rewarded, and their motivation shifts. Key components of equity theory. As you can imagine, equity theory is rooted at 5 components. Inputs: what an employee gives, meaning effort, commitment, skills, time, and performance. Outcomes: what an employee receives, meaning pay, praise, job security, growth opportunities. Referent: other, the person or group they compare themselves to, could be a peer, team, or industry standard. Perceived equity or inequity: the result of the comparison, fair treatment leads to satisfaction, unfairness to tension. Behavioral responses: people try to restore balance by reducing their input, working less, asking for more outcomes, a raise or promotion, changing the referent, comparing to someone else, leaving the situation entirely, quitting. Business example: motivation in real life. Let's imagine David, a skilled graphic designer at a branding agency. He consistently delivers high-quality work, often stays late, and mentors junior staff. One day, he learns that a new hire with similar experience is earning significantly more, despite putting in less effort. David begins to reassess his situation. His inputs feel high: time, dedication, expertise. His outcomes feel low in comparison: same role, less pay, minimal recognition. His referent, the new hire, highlights the imbalance. Now David faces a choice. Should he speak up? Ask for a raise? Quiet quit? Or even look for a new job? Unless the imbalance is addressed, David's motivation will continue to erode. Not because he suddenly dislikes his work, but because he feels undervalued compared to someone else. The manager's role in the motivation process. Leaders play a critical role in shaping perceptions of fairness. Sometimes, it's not the actual reward that causes problems, it's the lack of transparency or perceived inconsistency in how rewards are distributed. To foster equity, managers should communicate clearly about how decisions on promotions, pay, and recognition are made. Listen actively when employees express concerns about fairness. Recognize contributions fairly and consistently across the team. Review compensation and workload regularly to spot imbalances. Explain context: sometimes inequity is justified, but employees need to understand why. The goal isn't to treat everyone identically, but to ensure that differences are justified, visible, and fair. Why equity theory matters in business settings. Fairness isn't a soft issue, it's a performance issue. Perceived inequity can lead to low engagement, higher turnover, declining productivity, office tension and resentment, damage to team culture. In contrast, when people feel fairly treated, they are more likely to go above and beyond, show loyalty, and trust leadership. It's not just about how much you pay someone, it's about how fair it feels relative to effort and others. Pros and cons of equity theory. Pros. Highlights the emotional and social side of motivation. Explains real workplace behavior like disengagement or job hopping. Encourages fairness and consistency in leadership. Adaptable to different industries and roles. Cons. Based on perception, which can be inaccurate or biased. Hard to measure inputs and outcomes objectively. Comparisons can create tension even when inequity is justified. Doesn't account deeply for personal goals or intrinsic motivation. Conclusion: motivation runs on fairness. Adams' equity theory reminds us that people don't work in a vacuum, they constantly compare, evaluate, and interpret fairness in their environment. Motivation isn't just about rewards, it's about relative rewards. For leaders, the takeaway is clear. If you want people to give their best, make sure they feel like they're being treated fairly, not just in what they get, but in how they're seen, valued, and supported. Because when people feel the scales are balanced, they're far more likely to lean in.